I never thought a simple camping trip could change my life forever. When my best friends invited me to a week-long jungle adventure deep in the northern wilderness, I imagined late-night bonfires, mosquito bites, and the smell of wet earth after a sudden rain. I didn't expect anything more than a test of endurance and maybe a few funny stories to tell when we got back. But something about that trip, something hidden in the thick tangle of vines, echoing waterfalls, and damp shadows would awaken a side of me I had never dared to see. My name back then was Sam, a perfectly ordinary name for a perfectly ordinary guy. I wore the same faded jeans and loose t-shirts every day, never bothering to stand out. My friends always teased me for being too quiet, too cautious, too unwilling to take risks. Maybe that's why I agreed to go on this jungle camping trip in the first place. I wanted to prove, at least to myself, that I wasn't afraid of stepping into the unknown. The morning of our departure was thick with the smell of wet soil from an overnight rain. We gathered at the trailhead, a remote point 3 hours from the nearest town. There was Mia, always energetic and fearless, with a camera slung across her shoulder. Ben, carrying more snacks than anyone could possibly eat, and Kara, whose quiet intelligence balanced out the group. They waved at me with excitement as I stepped out of the Jeep, my heavy backpack threatening to pull me backward. The driver gave a quick nod before disappearing down the dirt road, leaving behind only the fading sound of tires on gravel. We were on our own. The jungle loomed ahead, alive with a hum that felt almost electric. Birds chirped in strange patterns, insects buzzed with hidden purpose, and the air smelled of moss and distant rain. As we started walking, Mia pointed out plants with broad leaves glistening with dew, while Ben cracked jokes about every creepy noise. I tried to keep up, but my mind wandered to the unease curling in my stomach. Something about this place felt alive in a way I couldn't name, as if the trees were watching us with silent, ancient eyes. Hours passed as we trekked deeper into the jungle. The trail narrowed until it became little more than a faint path of broken twigs and damp soil. Sunlight filtered through the canopy in shifting golden patterns, painting the ground in a mosaic of light and shadow. My clothes clung to me with sweat, and the weight of my pack dug into my shoulders. Yet with every step, I felt a strange sense of anticipation building inside me, like a quiet drumbeat urging me forward. We finally reached a small clearing near a rushing river where we planned to set up camp. Mia immediately began assembling her camera equipment to capture the sunset, while Ben struggled with the tent poles, muttering under his breath. Kara knelt by the riverbank, testing the water with careful fingers. I dropped my pack and let out a breath of relief, my muscles aching but my heart strangely light. The jungle stretched endlessly around us, a cathedral of green that felt both protective and suffocating. As I looked at the darkening sky, a chill passed through me, even though the air was warm. It felt as though something unseen was waiting just beyond the treeline. That night, after a simple dinner of roasted vegetables and instant noodles, we gathered around the fire. Sparks danced upward, disappearing into the velvet black sky. Mia told stories of ancient spirits said to guard these woods, their voices carried by the wind. Ben laughed it off, but Kara listened with wide eyes, her face lit by the flickering flames. I tried to joke along, but a part of me couldn't shake the feeling that those spirits might be real. Every rustle in the dark made me glance over my shoulder. When it was time to sleep, I lay in my tent, the damp earth pressing through the thin floor beneath my sleeping bag. The jungle was alive with sounds: crickets, distant animal calls, the low rush of the river. I closed my eyes, but sleep came in restless fragments. At some point in the night, a soft breeze slipped through the tent flap, carrying with it a faint fragrance unlike anything I'd smelled before. It was sweet and earthy, like a blend of wildflowers and rain-soaked wood. The scent wrapped around me like an invisible ribbon, lulling me into a dreamlike state. In the haze of half-sleep, I thought I heard a voice, soft, melodic, almost coaxing. I couldn't make out the words, but the sound sent a shiver down my spine. When morning came, I woke to find my clothes damp from the humidity and my heart racing with an excitement I couldn't explain. I brushed it off as jungle nerves, but a subtle change lingered in the air. As we ate breakfast, Kara noticed a faint shimmer along the riverbank, like sunlight bending in an odd way. Mia grabbed her camera to capture it, but by the time she focused the lens, it was gone. Ben joked about swamp gas, but I couldn't help feeling that we were being invited or perhaps tested by something ancient and unseen. That day we planned a longer hike to a hidden waterfall several miles deeper into the jungle. The path grew steeper, roots twisting like veins across the ground. As we climbed, I felt a strange energy coursing through me, making each breath sharper, each color brighter. The leaves seemed greener, the air sweeter. When we finally reached the waterfall, it was like stepping into another world. Water cascaded down a towering cliff in a silver curtain, filling the air with mist that sparkled in the sunlight. The pool below was a perfect circle of crystal blue, surrounded by moss-covered stones. It felt untouched, sacred. Mia and Kara rushed forward to take photos, while Ben began skipping stones across the pool. I stood at the edge, mesmerized by the way the water shimmered. The same sweet fragrance from the night before filled the air, stronger now, almost intoxicating. I knelt to touch the water, and the instant my fingers broke the surface, a chill shot through me, not cold, but electric, like a gentle current awakening something deep inside. My reflection wavered in the ripples, but for a split second, I swore I saw someone else staring back. Softer eyes. A different shape of face. My breath caught, and I stumbled backward. Nobody else seemed to notice. They were laughing, splashing, lost in the moment. I forced a smile and joined them, but my mind kept replaying that fleeting image. Was it a trick of light or something more? As the day wore on, the feeling only grew stronger. My skin tingled, my thoughts drifted, and a quiet voice inside whispered of change, of possibility. By the time we returned to camp at dusk, I felt like a stranger in my own body. That night, the jungle's song was louder, more insistent. I lay awake in my tent, listening to the wind weave through the trees like a secret melody. The sweet fragrance returned, filling the air until it was all I could breathe. And then, faint but clear, I heard the voice again, soft, warm, almost human. This time it spoke words I could understand, though they felt less like sound and more like meaning. Let go. Be who you are. I sat up, heart pounding, unsure if I was awake or dreaming. The world outside the tent glowed faintly, as if moonlight had thickened into a mist. Something inside me urged me to step outside, to follow the call. My hands trembled as I unzipped the tent and stepped into the humid night. The air shimmered with an otherworldly glow, and the jungle felt alive in a way I had never felt before. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to follow the sound. And so I walked, deeper into the jungle, into the heart of something I couldn't name, toward a change I couldn't yet understand. The moonlight filtered through the thick canopy like liquid silver as I stepped farther away from the camp. Each footstep felt both cautious and inevitable, as though the jungle itself had cleared a path just for me. The air carried that same hypnotic fragrance, wildflowers mixed with the scent of wet leaves after rain, and it pulled me forward like an invisible thread. Behind me, the faint crackle of our campfire faded until all I could hear was the steady rush of the river and the rhythmic chorus of crickets. My heart pounded in a way that wasn't fear, not exactly, but an anticipation I couldn't explain. I reached a narrow trail I hadn't noticed before, a path lined with tall ferns that swayed though there was no breeze. Every leaf seemed to shimmer faintly, reflecting the moon's glow in soft blues and greens. My breath caught when I realized I wasn't even using my flashlight. Somehow, the jungle itself provided enough light to guide me. The voice that had whispered to me earlier returned, now slightly clearer, like a melody carried on the wind. It didn't speak words this time. It hummed, low and soothing, vibrating in my chest. I felt it more than heard it, and each note stirred something inside me that had been asleep for years. The path led to a clearing where a single, enormous tree stood at the center, its roots twisting like sculptures across the ground. The trunk was wide enough to shelter a house, and its bark glowed faintly, pulsing with a gentle light that matched the rhythm of my heartbeat. I approached cautiously, my steps soundless against the mossy earth. As I laid a hand on the tree's warm surface, the voice grew stronger, resonating not in my ears but deep in my bones. You have carried a shell for too long. Let it fall. Become what you've hidden. The words were not a command, but an invitation. I closed my eyes, and memories I hadn't thought of in years surfaced moments when I had secretly admired the softness of certain clothes, the elegance of subtle gestures, the quiet beauty of femininity I never dared to explore. I remembered childhood afternoons spent watching my cousins braid each other's hair, my chest tight with an ache I couldn't name. I remembered the quiet envy I felt when friends expressed themselves freely, while I buried every curious thought under layers of expectation. Each memory came with a sudden clarity. The person I had pretended to be was only a shadow. As I stood there, a warmth spread through my body, starting from the tips of my fingers and flowing inward like liquid sunlight. My skin tingled, not painfully, but with a strange awareness. My heartbeat slowed until it matched the soft pulse of the tree. For a moment, I felt weightless, as though the jungle itself was breathing with me. When I opened my eyes, the clearing looked sharper, colors richer. The moonlight painted the world in hues of silver and blue that seemed to belong to another realm entirely. A soft rustling behind me made me turn. There, at the edge of the clearing, stood a figure. At first I thought it was Mia or Kara, but the silhouette was different, taller than Mia, more graceful than Kara. The figure shimmered faintly, as though made of moonlight and mist. I couldn't make out a face, only the gentle curve of a form both human and otherworldly. It raised a hand, palm outward, and though it said nothing, I felt an overwhelming sense of understanding. You are safe. You are becoming. Without realizing it, I reached back, my fingers trembling as they hovered in the humid air. The moment my hand aligned with the figure's unseen touch, a rush of warmth filled me. It wasn't a physical transformation, at least not yet, but something inside shifted. The boundaries I had built between who I was and who I could be began to dissolve like morning fog. I felt my breath catch as an unfamiliar but comforting thought surfaced. What if I didn't have to be who I'd always been? What if the person I longed to be had been waiting here all along? The figure slowly stepped back, fading into the mist until only the glowing tree remained. A sudden fatigue washed over me, heavy but peaceful, like the pull of a gentle tide. My eyelids grew heavy, and I sank to the mossy ground. As I drifted into a half-sleep, the voice whispered one last time, "Tomorrow you will see." I awoke to the first light of dawn, the jungle alive with birdsong. For a moment, I thought it had all been a dream. But when I sat up, I realized my clothes felt different against my skin. My shirt clung in a way it hadn't before, softer somehow. The air felt sharper, every sound clearer. I brushed my hand across my face and paused. My skin felt smoother, almost delicate. I hurried back toward camp, my heart racing with a mix of wonder and confusion. When I arrived, Mia, Ben, and Kara were already awake, making breakfast. They greeted me with sleepy smiles, but none of them commented on my absence or on any difference in my appearance. Either they hadn't noticed, or the change was something only I could feel. I grabbed a cup of tea and tried to steady my thoughts. The warmth from the night before still lingered in my chest, a quiet hum that refused to fade. As the day went on, subtle changes revealed themselves. My reflection in the river seemed softer, my jawline slightly less sharp, my eyes holding a brightness I didn't remember. My voice, when I spoke, carried a gentler lilt. These weren't dramatic shifts, but they were unmistakable. Each time I caught my reflection, a strange calm filled me, as though the person staring back was closer to who I was meant to be. During the afternoon hike, Mia glanced at me and tilted her head. "You look different today," she said, her tone curious but kind. "Did you sleep well?" I forced a laugh and shrugged. "Maybe the jungle air is doing something to me." She smiled and nodded. "It suits you." Those simple words sent a quiet thrill through me. I didn't know what was happening, but for the first time in years, I felt alive in a way I couldn't put into words. The jungle, the voice, the glowing tree, they were all part of a transformation that felt as natural as breathing. That night, as the stars glittered above and the fire crackled softly, I caught my reflection again in a pot of water near the campfire. The person staring back was still me, but softer, freer, more radiant. My heart raced, not with fear but with a strange, giddy anticipation. Something deep inside whispered that this was only the beginning. The jungle had started to peel away the layers I had worn for so long, and I was no longer sure where the old Sam ended and the new self began. Whatever awaited me next, I couldn't turn back. The path forward was unknown, but it shimmered with possibility, and I was ready to follow it wherever it led. The third morning in the jungle began with a strange stillness, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The usual hum of insects was softer, the rustling of leaves gentler, and the early mist hung lower over the river like a curtain hiding some secret. I awoke before the others, my heart already beating faster than normal, as though my body knew something important was about to unfold. The lingering warmth from the night before still pulsed faintly through my chest, a quiet reminder of the glowing tree and the voice that had called me deeper into the forest. I crawled out of the tent and approached the river to wash my face. As I knelt beside the water, the morning sun broke through the canopy, striking the surface at just the right angle to create a reflection so sharp it felt more real than the world around it. I froze. My reflection no longer looked like the person I had always known. My jawline was softer, my cheekbones more defined yet delicately shaped, my eyes bright with a sparkle that hadn't been there before. My hair, though still short, seemed thicker, framing my face with a gentle wave. Even the way I held myself felt different, shoulders relaxed, posture more graceful. A shiver ran through me, half fear and half exhilaration. I touched my face, expecting the reflection to change back, but it remained, serene and undeniable. It wasn't a complete transformation. I was still me, but there was a feminine lightness to my features that no trick of water could explain. The jungle air seemed to hum with quiet approval. I whispered to my reflection without meaning to, a question that felt both absurd and completely natural. Is this who I am? The water rippled as if in response, a gentle wave that distorted my image, but didn't erase it. My breath caught. I wanted to stay there forever, staring at this emerging version of myself, but the sound of footsteps behind me pulled me back. Kara approached, her hair still mussed from sleep. She gave me a sleepy smile and knelt beside me. "It's beautiful here in the morning," she said, dipping her fingers into the cool water. "Doesn't it feel like the jungle is alive somehow?" I hesitated, searching her face for any sign that she noticed the changes in me. But she looked at me with the same warmth as always, no shock or confusion in her eyes. "It really does," I replied softly, my voice carrying a gentle lilt that made me pause. Kara tilted her head, a faint smile flickering across her lips. "You sound peaceful," she said. "Like the forest is speaking through you." Her words sent a quiet thrill through me. Maybe she couldn't see what I saw, but she sensed it all the same. We sat together in silence, the river's soft murmur filling the air, until the others stirred awake and the clearing came alive with morning activity. That day's hike was longer and more challenging. We planned to explore a series of caves rumored to contain ancient carvings. As we trekked through twisting paths and dense undergrowth, I felt a new kind of energy coursing through me. My steps were lighter, my balance steadier, and every color around me seemed sharper: the deep emerald of moss, the fiery orange of distant flowers, the glittering blue of hidden streams. Even the air felt different, as though I could sense the heartbeat of the jungle itself. At one point, we stopped to rest near a cluster of giant ferns. Mia handed me a bottle of water and paused, her eyes narrowing in curiosity. "Sam, you're glowing," she said with a laugh, though there was no mockery in her tone. "I mean literally glowing. Your skin looks amazing. What's your secret?" My cheeks flushed with heat. "Maybe it's just the humidity," I said quickly, though inside I knew it was something far deeper. Ben, always the joker, grinned. If this jungle makes you look like that, I'm staying here forever. Their laughter was warm and easy, but beneath it I felt the weight of a truth I couldn't share. How could I explain that the jungle itself was reshaping me, not just on the outside, but in ways I had spent my whole life avoiding? When we reached the caves, the air inside was cool and damp, carrying a faint echo of dripping water. Ancient carvings covered the walls, spirals, symbols, and figures with flowing shapes that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. I ran my fingers across one of the carvings and felt a sudden surge of warmth, as if the stone itself recognized me. A soft whisper echoed in my mind, the same voice as before, though fainter this time. "You are closer now. Trust what you feel." The warmth spread through me until my fingertips tingled. I closed my eyes and inhaled deeply, the scent of moss and earth filling my lungs. In that quiet moment, an image surfaced in my mind. Me, but different. Long hair brushing my shoulders, eyes lined with soft elegance, a presence that radiated confidence and serenity. I didn't resist it. Instead, I welcomed it, and the image settled into me like a long-lost memory finally returning home. The hike back to camp felt dreamlike. Every step seemed to align with the quiet rhythm of change inside me. By the time we arrived, the sun was setting, casting the sky in streaks of rose and gold. The air was thick with that familiar sweet fragrance, stronger than ever, wrapping around me like an embrace. That evening around the fire, conversation flowed easily, but I spoke less than usual. I was lost in the quiet realization that my transformation was no longer something hidden. It was happening openly, even if my friends didn't fully see it. The way they smiled at me, the subtle warmth in their voices, it was as if they were unconsciously responding to the new energy I carried. Later, as I lay in my tent, the glow of the fire fading to embers outside, I traced my fingers over my arms and face. My skin felt impossibly soft, each breath a reminder that the person I had been was slowly fading like the last light of day. Instead of fear, a profound sense of rightness settled over me. I didn't know how far this transformation would go, but for the first time in my life, I didn't want to stop it. The jungle had awakened something inside me, something gentle yet unshakable. And as sleep claimed me, I knew with absolute certainty that when morning came, I would wake even closer to the person I was always meant to be. Morning arrived with a softness that felt almost otherworldly. The sunlight seeped through the canopy in golden ribbons, and the air smelled faintly of jasmine, though no flowers were in sight. I opened my eyes before anyone else stirred, my body humming with an energy I couldn't name. The transformation had deepened overnight. I felt it before I even moved. My limbs were lighter, my skin impossibly smooth, and when I sat up, a strand of hair brushed against my cheek, longer than it had been the day before. My heart skipped. The jungle wasn't just changing me, it was revealing me. I unzipped the tent and stepped into the clearing. The river glimmered in the early light like a mirror made of liquid crystal. Drawn to it, I knelt at the bank and looked at my reflection. The sight stole my breath. The face staring back was unmistakably mine, but softened in ways that defied explanation. My features carried a gentle balance, my eyes shone with a quiet radiance, and my lips curved with a natural grace I had never known. My hair now grazed my shoulders in silky waves, catching the morning light like strands of bronze. I reached out, fingertips brushing the cool water. A ripple spread outward, blurring the image for a moment before settling again. But the person looking back was no longer the boy I had once been. I whispered to the reflection, the words trembling on my tongue. "This is me, isn't it?" The jungle answered not with words, but with a subtle breeze that swept across the clearing, carrying that now familiar fragrance of wildflowers and rain. It wrapped around me like an embrace, and in that moment I knew the answer. Yes. This was me, who I had always been beneath the layers of expectation and fear. Footsteps rustled behind me. Mia appeared, her camera hanging from her neck, and stopped short when she saw me. Her eyes widened slightly, not in shock but in quiet wonder. "Sam," she said softly, "you look different again." But it's beautiful. You're glowing. Her voice carried no judgment, only warmth. My chest tightened, and I struggled to find words. I don't know what's happening, I admitted, my voice softer than before, carrying a melody I barely recognized. It feels like I'm finally becoming who I'm supposed to be. Mia stepped closer, her gaze gentle. Maybe the jungle is just helping you see yourself, she said. You don't have to explain it. You just are. Her acceptance washed over me like sunlight breaking through clouds. I wanted to thank her, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I simply smiled, and she smiled back, a silent understanding passing between us. The rest of the group woke slowly, and though Ben and Kara noticed my changes, their reactions were strikingly calm. Kara tilted her head, studying me for a long moment, then gave a small nod as if something she had long suspected was now confirmed. Ben, ever the joker, only grinned. Whatever you're doing, keep it up, he said. This jungle glow-up is wild. We spent the day exploring a series of hidden lagoons, their turquoise waters shimmering like gemstones beneath the midday sun. Each step I took felt natural in a way I couldn't fully describe. My movements were lighter, my gestures more fluid, my laughter carrying a softness that felt as natural as breathing. The more I allowed myself to simply be, the more the jungle seemed to respond, birds singing brighter, the wind weaving melodies through the leaves, sunlight breaking through the trees to bathe me in warm light. At one lagoon, Mia handed me her camera to capture a shot of Kara and Ben. When I lifted it to my eye, my reflection flashed briefly in the lens, and for a moment I didn't recognize myself. A girl stared back, confident, serene, radiant. My breath caught as I lowered the camera, the image lingering in my mind even after it disappeared from the viewfinder. I didn't correct it or doubt it. Instead, I let the truth settle quietly in my heart. The person I was seeing wasn't an illusion. She was real. She was me. As the day wore on, my connection to the jungle deepened. I could almost feel the rhythm of the earth beneath my feet, a heartbeat that matched my own. Every sound, the distant calls of birds, the gentle splash of water, seemed to harmonize with the quiet transformation unfolding inside me. By the time we returned to camp, the sky was painted in streaks of violet and rose, the jungle glowing with the soft light of approaching night. That evening, as the others prepared dinner, I slipped away to the riverbank once more. The glowing tree was not far. I felt its presence like a gentle pull in my chest. Following the call, I made my way through the ferns until I reached the familiar clearing. The tree stood as luminous as ever, its bark pulsing faintly with an inner light. The moment I placed my hand on its warm surface, the voice returned, clearer than it had ever been. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you have always been. Tears pricked my eyes, though I didn't feel sadness, only a profound relief. For so long, I had buried my true self beneath layers of doubt, fear, and the need to conform. Now, in this sacred place, those layers fell away like old leaves in the wind. You've been waiting for me, I whispered. Always. But you had to choose. And I had chosen, though I hadn't realized it until that moment. I chose every time I followed the voice, every time I embraced the changes instead of fighting them. I chose when I looked into my reflection and smiled instead of turning away. The tree's light brightened, surrounding me in a soft glow that felt like both an ending and a beginning. My body tingled from head to toe, not with fear, but with a quiet certainty. I wasn't losing anything. I was finding everything. When I returned to camp, the stars were beginning to appear, scattered across the deepening sky. My friends greeted me with easy smiles, as though nothing about my transformation surprised them anymore. We ate together in a circle of soft firelight, the jungle singing around us, and for the first time in my life, I felt completely at home in the world, in my body, in myself. That night, as I lay in my tent, I traced the changes I could feel but not fully see. My heart no longer raced with uncertainty. It beat steadily with a quiet, radiant truth. Tomorrow, I knew, would bring the final step. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid. I was ready. The last morning in the jungle arrived with a hush so deep it felt sacred. Dawn spread across the canopy in pale shades of lavender and gold, and the air was thick with a sweet fragrance that had followed me since the first night. I awoke to the gentle sound of the river and the faint rustle of leaves, my heart beating with a calm certainty. The warmth that had been a whisper inside me for days now glowed like a steady flame. I knew, even before I opened my eyes, that this day would complete the journey the jungle had begun. I rose and stepped outside. The clearing shimmered with morning mist, the sunlight painting the air in soft halos. My body moved with effortless grace, every motion feeling natural and new. I walked to the river's edge and looked down at my reflection. This time, there was no shock. The girl staring back at me was real and whole, her features soft yet strong, her eyes alive with a quiet confidence. My hair fell in gentle waves around my shoulders, catching the light like spun gold. My skin glowed with a warmth that seemed to come from within. It wasn't a disguise. It wasn't a dream. It was me fully, undeniably me. I smiled at my reflection, and she smiled back, the same curve of lips, the same light in the eyes. For the first time in my life, I felt no distance between who I was inside and what the world could see. Tears welled, but did not fall. They weren't born of sadness, but of a joy so deep it defied words. Behind me, footsteps approached softly. Kara stood a few feet away, her eyes gentle, her presence steady. She didn't look surprised. Instead, she offered a quiet smile that felt like understanding. "You look happy," she said. "I am," I replied, my voice carrying a soft melody that felt both new and familiar. "For the first time, I am." Kara stepped closer and rested a hand on my shoulder. "The jungle didn't change you," she said softly. "It just showed you what was always there." Her words settled into me like the final piece of a long, intricate puzzle. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Soon, Mia and Ben emerged from their tents. They greeted me with warm smiles, their eyes bright, but free of surprise. If they saw the transformation, they accepted it without question. Ben simply said, "You look incredible," and Mia added, "It's like the jungle gave you a gift." We packed our belongings in a comfortable silence, the kind that speaks more than words ever could. As we began the trek back to the trailhead, I noticed how the jungle seemed to move with us, each bird call and rustling leaf a quiet farewell. The path that had once felt wild and intimidating now felt like a gentle guide leading me home. Hours passed beneath the endless green canopy. With each step, I felt lighter, freer, as though every root and stone was part of a farewell ceremony. The jungle's sweet fragrance lingered, a final blessing. When we finally reached the edge of the forest, the world beyond stretched wide and open, but I carried the jungle inside me, the glowing tree, the whispering voice, the truth it had revealed. As we loaded our gear into the Jeep, Mia glanced at me with a teasing grin. "So, what will you tell people when they ask about this trip?" I thought for a long moment before answering, that I found something I didn't even know I was searching for. The ride back to civilization was quiet, each of us lost in our own thoughts. I watched the dense green fade into rolling hills, then into open sky, the memories of the jungle etched into every breath I took. Though the glowing tree was now miles away, I could still feel its gentle pulse in my heart. When we finally reached the town, I caught my reflection in the Jeep's window. The girl looking back at me smiled with a quiet certainty. She was no longer a fleeting image in rippling water or a dream half-remembered. She was alive, vibrant, and whole. I stepped out of the Jeep and felt the sun warm my skin. The world beyond the jungle was louder, harsher, but I carried with me a calm strength that nothing could shake. I didn't need to explain or defend my transformation. I didn't need permission to exist. I was not a different person. I was finally myself. The jungle had not made me a girl. It had given me the courage to see the girl who had always been there, waiting patiently beneath the layers of doubt and fear. And as I walked forward into the bright, open day, I carried her with me strong, radiant, and free.